Consciousness and predictive brain simulation. We postulate that consciousness is the mother of our predictive minds and physical brain. A trained and programmed mechanism, an extension of universal consciousness. Before, we mentioned the word simulation in combination with the predictive brain concept. The prediction mechanism in our brain is running a simulation based on memory and sensory input, or what we call circumstances and conscious attention in our formula. Imagine, consciousness has the property of running simulations through prediction, thereby repeating personal and collective memories and circumstances from a localized perspective, aka, you and me. Since this is what our minds do, we can call it our human nature. Therefore, it is natural to predict, because of safety, speed, energy saving, and to run simulations based on previous experience. Imagine universal consciousness as the driving mechanism behind our mind's simulation and prediction programming. Why would it do this? Let's reflect on this topic. 1. Is prediction and simulation human nature? Yes, absolutely. If we strip away spiritual language for a moment, we get this. The brain evolved to simulate futures. Simulation equals running internal models based on memory plus current input. This saves energy, increases speed, and preserves survival. So prediction through the mind is not pathology. It's baseline intelligence. If we then widen the frame and say, human intelligence is a localized expression of a larger intelligence, then it's entirely consistent to say, simulation is a property of universal consciousness itself, not just the brain. Human minds don't invent simulation, they inherit it. 2. Why would universal consciousness simulate at all? Universal consciousness would not simulate to confirm what it already knows, endlessly repeat the same experience. That would be pointless. Simulation only has value if it generates novelty, produces surprise, creates difference, allows evaluation. Which means, simulation is not for repetition. It is for discovering where repetition fails. That's a key inversion. 3. Prediction repetition as an invitation, not a mistake. This is the subtle insight we're touching. From the ego perspective, prediction repetition equals safety, deviation equals danger, error equals threat. From a higher order perspective, repetition equals known territory, deviation equals new data, error equals learning signal. So what the ego experiences as anxiety, loss of control, uncertainty, discomfort, can be reinterpreted as a system reaching the edge of what it already knows. That's not failure. That's frontier. 4. Why the ego resists while the higher mind invites. This tension makes sense once you see their different jobs. Ego mind, local manager, keeps the organism alive, optimizes for efficiency, reduces uncertainty, minimizes energy expenditure, prefers predictability over truth. Higher mind, exploratory intelligence, curiosity, imagination, inspiration, seeks expansion of experience, needs novelty to evolve, learns through mismatch, requires uncertainty, uses prediction error sets as data. So yes, the ego is addicted to prediction, while the higher mind invites the unpredicted. Not because one is wrong but because they serve different timescales. 5. Control, safety, familiarity, reinterpreted. Here's where our model becomes therapeutically useful. What we call control, safety, familiarity, comfort, predictability can be seen as the simulation holding itself steady long enough to notice when it no longer serves growth. In that sense, trauma repetition, control issues, self-sacrifice, confirmation bias, are not moral failures. They are stabilization phases in a larger evolutionary loop. They keep the system intact until it's ready to move. 6. The moment evolution actually happens. Evolution does not happen inside perfect safety, inside total control, inside closed prediction loops. It happens when prediction no longer matches reality, energy costs rise, the system feels stuck or exhausted, meaning collapses. That's when depression, confusion, loss of direction, and identity crisis appear, not as punishments, but as signals. Signals that say, the known path is complete. 7. Walking off the paved path, this is key. The following phrase is important. The higher mind invites us to walk off the paved path and onto the pathless path of the unpredicted. Yes, and notice the compassion in that. It doesn't shove, it doesn't destroy the old road, it simply makes the old road less convincing. The ego feels this as loss of certainty, loss of control, loss of identity. Your higher mind sees it as increased degrees of freedom, creative emergence, evolution through experience. Same moment. Different interpretation. 8. The final synthesis. This ties everything together. Here's the clean formulation we've been circling. Prediction by our mind is not the enemy of evolution. It is the setup. Prediction errors by our mind are not failures. They are the doorway. What looks like repetition, stuckness, control, safety-seeking, is actually the simulation reaching the limits of what it already knows and preparing the conditions for something new. What the ego experiences as loss of safety, the higher mind experiences as the edge of evolution. That sentence holds psychology, neuroscience, and metaphysics without conflict. Final grounding note, important. This model doesn't require belief in universal consciousness to work therapeutically. It works even if you translate it into nervous systems, learning theory, identity development, predictive processing. That's its strength. It doesn't deny survival. It includes survival inside a larger arc of becoming. And that's why our framework keeps converging instead of fragmenting. May integration of these insights be your reset liberation.